it feels nice to be able to like reward all the people that took a risk on me. It's nice not to feel like I've let everyone down again. Do you know what I mean? Because that's kind of like what you feel when you're an addict and when you're failing and when all these things, you just feel like, oh, I just keep letting everyone down.
Hey, what's up, Billy? How are you, man?
Hey man, yeah, good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you great.
Much better than last time. Sorry about that. Oh,
Dude, no worries, man. I'm glad we got to do this again.
Yeah. I'm glad that we get a proper, more relaxed, and I can show you the studio as well. Look. Ta-da.
Beautiful.
I know for a podcast, it's not really, shall I describe it? It's all red and there's a bulldog right there. You see my bulldog?
Oh, I can see him. He blended right in there.
Yeah, man. Trev, move this bowl of fruit out the way. There he is.
Oh, wow. I love that. Is that an old record player right there?
Yeah, man. That's a gramophone that I found in a vintage shop for 20 quid. Absolutely.
No way. Does it work?
No.
Oh,
I mean,
that's cool though.
It would be worth hundreds, I think. But it looks good, doesn't it?
It does. It looks awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
No, what's cool is like, so, okay, I went on, you were live on Instagram.
Yeah.
Like a little bit after our conversation. I mean, it must have been a few hours after. And you were, getting people to, you're like, get the link, and they're downloading your record. And it was so cool to watch, like in real time, you make it onto the charts.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I was trying to work out which live that was because I've done so many.
It was when you were like, you were pumping the record. Like, I think at midnight was like when they called it or something like that, like to see if you made it on to the official charts.
Yeah. Yeah, it's exciting, man. It's an exciting time. I'm trying not to think too much about it because otherwise I'll start worrying about all the things that could go wrong.
But at least you did it. It was, like I said, it was so awesome to watch you, like, getting people like, oh, here's the link. Oh, who has the link? And you're like, you have your, people are in there sharing it to each other. Oh, it's right here. Send it to your family. Blah, blah, blah. And then at the end of it all, you made it right on. You made it on 15th, I think, right?
Yeah, number 15. Yeah.
That's so huge.
Yeah, man. It's great. It's great. It's just nice that people are listening to it.
Oh, it's such an awesome album, man.
Thank you. Honestly, thank you. I am really, really proud of it. I'm just so proud of it. And I know obviously everyone says that, don't they? Everyone's proud of what they do, but I haven't been that proud of things that I've done in the past when it comes to my music. I obviously I like what I've done, but with this album, I am like a fan. Whereas the other stuff, it was like, yeah, I like it, but it was sometimes I felt like it was for the fans. Whereas this album I made it for me.
For you, yeah, I love that. I remember I was telling you, "Kamikaze" was the song that really stuck out to me, and you were like, "Oh, well," like it was cool to kind of hear your take on it because it's definitely the more like upbeat song on the record.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I seem to put that one on a lot. When I'm listening to the album, one of the first things I go to is Kamikaze. And it's also one of the most upbeat songs I think I've ever made in my life.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. It's like, it's so different from the rest of the music I've heard of yours, especially from that album. But like, to me, I was like, whoa, this, like, it's a few songs in, but then it picks up and you're like, wow, this is a rad song. And I love how you're able to bring your personality into your album. I feel like there's a part of it where you're like, you kind of like laugh at yourself. I can't remember the lyric off the top of my head.
I think I like myself today. Oh wait, shit, no, I don't. I'm high again.
Yeah, and then you kind of like laugh it off. You're like, yeah. No, you say lame. You're like, no, lame.
Like, yeah, mate, do you think my songs all sound the same? Because I do, but I don't. Ugh, lame.
Yeah. I was like, that's brilliant.
because I have that conversation with so many people at that point when I was writing that song. I was in like such a rut with myself of just thinking I was so bored of me. You know what I mean? Like when you're just constantly making music and it's like when you over listen to an artist and then you just can't listen to them anymore. You're just sick of it.
Yeah.
And it was kind of that with all my music that I was making. And so with Kamikaze, I was like, I'm just going to write a song where I literally talk about how bored I am of my music. and the sound of it's going to be completely different because of that. You know, it was almost like a rebellious against myself. Yeah.
Sure. No, but it's so awesome. And like I said, like it's just the fact that you can pull that off being like, oh, lame. You know what I mean? Like not a lot of people could throw that piece. Like you're so direct in the song, but it makes sense and it works with just, I feel like it'd be hard to bring that out into something where it's like you're just being so authentic, where it's like you could even leave that in or like have that be a piece of it where it's like, oh man, like that's so awesome. That makes so much sense that you could add that into the song.
I literally wrote that. I wrote that on my own. It's one of the few songs on the album that I wrote completely on my own.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, that and Don't Be So Hard on Yourself were the two that I wrote on my own. And I literally wrote it sitting like here, you know, with the mic, like next to the desk. And it was just this constant kind of, you know, I wasn't even writing the song down. I was recording it. I was writing it and recording it in at the same time. So the whole thing felt really fluid. So I was kind of like, no, I don't think I ever wrote the lyrics down. You know?
Really?
Yeah, they were never written. It was purely just going back. Okay, no, that doesn't work. And so that's why it's so conversational. That's why there's loads of laughs in it, because when I sang that lyric, it was like it popped into my head and I sang it, and then it made me laugh instantly. And I thought, you know what, keep all of it in that way, because sometimes the problem when you're recording songs is that they can feel so stale by the time you actually come to record them, because you've written them, you've played them thousands of times on a piano, you've played them live hundreds of times, and then you come to record and you're kind of just going through the motions. Whereas the beauty with a lot of these songs is that they were written like on the go right there, you know, so you catch the real energy of when you first wrote it, because you literally first wrote it then. Like,
yeah, no, that's I've heard other artists talk about that, especially during, you know, like the quarantine COVID stuff, when people were writing songs. It would be like, you know,
sorry, my dog is snoring so loudly, and I realized it's going to come out on the recording, so I'm just going to move him.
Go ahead. I can't hear the dog, but go for it.
Okay,
No. But if you want to move him, go for it.
Because it gets loud, man. Honestly, this is the beginning of something. Come on, Trev. Come on, mate. Sorry about that. But you're just so noisy. Come on. Okay. Sorry, you were saying, mate.
Oh, no. I was just saying that, like, I love that you're talking about how you recorded it all kind of in real time, right? And I've had conversations with other artists that were saying, you know, during kind of like the quarantine, COVID stuff, recording, like they would record a song or record a vocal track from, you know, their closet with like a $90 USB mic. And then that take would make the album, because it was so hard to kind of recreate that, you know, authenticity and that energy and that emotion. You know, you have it captured in a moment, but then it's like you said, go into a studio and you've sang it now hundreds of thousands of times and you're trying to recreate it, and it just doesn't feel the same as it did that very first time. And it's like, you know, let's just use the shitty mic and you know, the closet recording and just run it that way.
I think it's because people don't care about that. You know, they don't.
That's
care
a great point.
What it was recorded on. You know, no one's. You know, my mum's never going to be like, "Oh, what mic did you record that on?" Because it sounds great. You know, it's like, and my mum's sort of, you know, the normal public person who a fan, I guess, you know, someone who likes listening to music who's not in music, I guess. So I use her as an example. But it's like, you know, the normal person doesn't care whether it's a, you know, a 50s synth or if it's a plug-in, you know.
Right.
And I guess musicians can tell and hear it, but I guess the thing is we're not actors, and so recreating a feeling is something that doesn't come naturally to us. And that's one of the hardest bits about doing it live, is you've got to try and recreate the feeling of it. But I guess when they're a group of people and they're all listening in real time, you kind of, it's easier to get the feeling, because it's kind of like when you're watching a movie. If you've seen it before but you're watching it with someone who hasn't, you kind of enjoy it because you're sort of watching it through their eyes. And I think that's the same thing with live music. When you play it, you can feel it because they can feel it and you can feel them feeling it. But when you're in the studio and you're just on your own in a room, you know, you kind of like, you know, it's almost why I guess live albums with audiences are so special. You know, it's because you have that feeling from the crowd. But
yeah, there's that energy in the room when it's being recorded.
Yeah,
it's
and
not a producer going, okay, let's take it from the third chord, you know, let's pick it up here.
And there's also something to be said for the producer, not like I have worked with people in the past where I would do hundreds of takes and then we'd comp them all, whereas with my new guy we probably do, you know, 3 or 4 takes of the lead vocal, and then that's it, really, you know, because it's like, and in my head and in Barney's eyes, after the 4th or 5th starts to get a little stale, you know.
Right, yeah, it would just be monotonous. Just okay, yeah, I'm gonna sing this again. Oh, really have to sing it again. And it's like, I bet at some point you're just going through the motions, like, okay, there it is again. Do I really need to go for the 17th time here or what?
Exactly, yeah, after the 17th. I mean, even after the 5th, you know, the first 2, you're sort of getting into it. The 3rd one's good, the 4th one's amazing, the 5th one's terrible. That's really that's how it goes with me anyway. You know?
When you get to the 5th, you're like, okay, we didn't even need to do that one. All right, we're gonna use the 4th.
Yeah.
Oh,
just
that's
play that silly game, don't you, where you're kind of like, yeah, let's just make sure that we're not going to get it better. Yeah.
Sure. Well, you told me last time, I think you grew up in Northampton, right, in the UK?
Yeah.
Tell me about that a little bit.
So Northampton is my home. I was born and bred here. I lived in London for 5 years, but eventually came back here. I love it. I really do love it here. It's got a great community. It's got a great scene. But it's a poor town in the UK that doesn't, you know, doesn't have a lot of money, and it's a little run down. And people in Northampton know that, you know, we're very aware of it. We're almost a bit proud of it, you know, because it's our place. But I think because of the rundown side and the roughness of it, and at times, I think that is part of the reason why the music scene and the art scene, just the creative world in this community, is so strong. I think sometimes when you have, you know, situations where everyone's in a hard time and there's not a lot of money around, it can spur off a lot of great art.
No, 100%.
So that's great, and I'd much rather it that way around. I'd much rather live in a town that does struggle but has an amazing scene and has an amazing character, and there's a lot of heart in Northampton. I think people are real and honest here.
There's that grit a little bit that I kind of think adds to some great art.
Hell yeah. The similar thing in New York, actually. I found weirdly, I found Northampton people very similar to New York. I felt like New York was a home from home.
That's interesting. And did you came from a musical household, at least, you know, to a certain extent, I remember. Musical lovers?
Yeah, so my mum and dad, they would have, well, my dad would always host these jam sessions. So and he'd do like a jam session curry night. So he'd basically invite every musician he knows, so there'd be like 20 odd musicians would turn up to the house. He'd cook a giant curry from scratch.
Wow.
Yeah, he was an amazing cook when it came to curries. And then everyone would go down into the cellar, the same cellar that I made Abington Grove in, actually.
No way.
Beautiful, yeah. So that exact cellar, every musician would go down there, and you'd get all sorts. You get like recorder players, banjo, drums, guitar, piano, singers, everything, the works. And it was just a party, really. It was just a giant party. Everyone would drink, everyone would smoke, everyone would play music. And sometimes, it would be a jam where someone would just start 4 chords, and then all of a sudden it would just build and build and build. And it would be, 20, 30 minutes long songs here. Yeah. And it would just go into all sorts of different worlds. Yeah. It was just sometimes it sounded terrible, if I'm honest. But then I sort of joined, and when I started playing keyboard, I started going down and being part of the jam sessions, and then we'd all have a curry afterwards. It's great.
That's amazing. What did your dad play?
So my dad played like anything that you could blow, basically. So sax,
you could blow.
Yeah. So sax, clarinet, recorder, what else? Harmonica. He had this thing. He was so proud of this. He had this electric recorder, right? which apparently was like state of the art. I don't think it ever took off, really. I've never really seen it. Sounded horrendous. You put it in, plug it into the synthesizer, and then it's supposed to be like violin sound, but it just sounds like a duck, like a really high-pitched duck. And he'd be blasting it out, but he loved it because the problem he had with jams is he was never loud enough to compete with the the beat guitars and everything. So with this, you could just turn the volume up. So it's a game changer for him. But it kind of took over the jam a bit. But yeah, so he did play. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. And you started playing, you said keyboards. How old are you when you started to learn?
Well, I've always known how to play piano, which is kind of weird. So when I was 8 years old, my mum and dad brought a piano into the house, originally for my mum to start playing and learning how to play. She didn't have a clue how to play. And then I basically just sat down as an 8-year-old and just suddenly played basically the same way that I can now.
Oh, wow. So you just had a gift.
It was weird. I don't know what, I mean, you say gift, I say party trick, but all I'm saying is I could just always play piano. It was just one of those things that I was just so confused that everyone else couldn't do this. I think that was the weird thing. It was everyone else was so shocked all the time, and I was like, what the hell? This is so simple. To me, shapes. It was just shapes, and you just, as long as your left hand follows your right hand. I mean, I know it still seems really easy to me, piano. I don't know why. I know that sounds arrogant. I don't mean it to at all.
No, I know, but if you just if you can just sit down and play, I mean, that's so impressive. I mean, you didn't have any sort of, you just sat down and were like, it was like, oh, that sounds good. That sounds like it should be.
Yeah. I've not had
or whatever.
Not had any lessons even to this day. I've never had any lessons in anything ever.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think I did I think I tried to do, I think I had one lesson. My mum took me to Bath to do these lessons, but it wasn't playing piano. It was like reading music. It was like trying to learn the theory. So there was no instruments involved, which kind of confused me. I was like, what the hell? I'm doing a music lesson and I'm writing.
Right, yeah.
This is exactly why I chose music, so I didn't have to write.
Right, exactly. Through school, were you in the band or anything like that? Like, did you play keyboards for the school at all?
Yeah, so that was when I it got to about 16, and there was a band, and they needed a keyboard player. So I was like, okay, this is my moment to finally get laid. Because before this, I'd been trying to be a professional snooker player, like pool and snooker player. So I don't know whether you have snooker over there, but
I'm not sure what is it.
basically it's like pool. You know pool?
Yeah, like billiards pool.
Yeah, billiards pool, exactly.
Okay.
So it's essentially that, but on a table that's like 4 or 5 times bigger. And
Oh wow.
it's a huge sport here. It's like it's so funny that I'm having to explain this because it's such a big sport in the UK. I mean, it's not massive, but everyone knows what snooker is here, and then no one in America. Every time you say it, everyone's like lost. But yeah, and it's like red ball, loads of red balls, and then 6 colored balls. You ever heard of this?
No, I'm Googling it right now because I'm like, what is he talking about? Okay. Okay, I'm looking at a table now, just so okay, so there's a bunch of red balls. There's a blue one, a brown, a white, a green, and a yellow. Or am I totally screwing up?
Yeah. Okay. That's it. And so basically you have to pot a red ball and then you can pot a color ball. And then the red ball's worth 1 point, and then the color balls are worth like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, depending on what color you pot. I can't believe I'm even explaining this.
Sorry. No, your fans in the UK were like, this dumbass doesn't even know what this game is.
No, I was explaining it to one of my mates the other day. He's on the album. Oh God, what's his name? What's the? Oh my God, I've totally lost my train of thought. But what's the rapper's name that's on my album on Hard Act to Follow, the feature?
Oh, Goodlink or Goldlink.
Goldlink. Yeah. So I was having when I first met Goldlink, we ended up talking about snooker, and I was literally kind of explaining it to him, and he was like Googling it as well, taking notes. He was so interested in this game, you know.
Yeah. So am I. I love playing pool. That's why I'm like, what is this? I've never heard of this game.
Yeah, man. Well, pool's great. So I was basically trying to do that professionally, and so I had a coach, and I was.
Oh wow, you were all in.
Yeah, man, I was all in, and I was trying to do tournaments, and I had to wear the waistcoat, and then I just realized that I was just never going to ever talk to a girl if I keep doing this. Like, you know, your whole life is just in a dark snooker hall with loads of old men. So I stopped that and started playing keyboards in this band at the back. And I remember after my first gig, when I was like 16, 17, this girl came over and gave me a number. I was like, oh my God. And I'm the keyboards player, you know, like the keyboards player, it's like the lowest of the food chain in a band when it comes to like when you're 16 years old, you want to be the singer. And if you're not that, you want to be the guitarist.
Guitar player.
And then bass has its own thing going on. But keyboard, like the keyboards at the back, man, it's not cool. But then I suddenly the singer left, and they needed a singer, so I filled in, and then all of a sudden we never got a new singer, basically, and then that was it, and then the band became Billy Lockett and the So-and-Sos, and then it just became Billy Lockett, and then I just went solo in the end. And
oh wow, so you went from keyboard player to fronting the band to now the band is basically you. Were you writing the songs then at that point?
Yeah. Then it got to the point where I was writing all the songs, and it was starting to just become my thing, really. And the band liked it, and they were happy to stay, but I just didn't need to do it as a band. It wasn't working as a band, so I just thought piano and vocal was my route with that. So
and
yeah,
did you like keep going so like once it just becomes kind of your solo thing, are you finished with school at this point and you're really pursuing it? Like was there like a moment prior to, you know, you kind of taking it on yourself that you were like getting some validation as like a songwriter and like your people were enjoying what you were doing? Like, because I would imagine at some point maybe if no one cared, you might be like, oh, maybe I should go back to you know, snooker.
Yeah, I think there were moments when it was. I mean, I did this talent competition at my school called Double X Factor, and it was that sort of, it was in the big theatre, and everyone in the whole school went to it. It was at Christmas. This was at sixth form, when I spent my whole school life not really having any friends, really, and not in like a poor me kind of way. I don't think I was really like I didn't feel like I was sort of a loser or anything, but it was more just, I was just a bit of I just wasn't, no one was really like me. I didn't feel like I fitted anywhere. So I was sort of just a recluse. And so lunches, I'd just sit on my own. I mean, it was boring, but it wasn't sad. It wasn't that sad. It was just a bit boring, basically. So I think music was definitely the way that I suddenly found people wanted to talk to me, because I had Tourette's as well at school, and it was quite bad. And I think that was at a time when people just hadn't got a clue what that was, and they didn't get it. And so I was kind of just the weird kid, you know. I think you just fall into that category, don't you? And I would rather not embarrass myself by being around people. I would rather just go to the practice room at lunch and just play piano on my own until the next classes. But then there was a talent competition at the end of sixth form, and I played a song that I'd written on a piano, and I won the competition, and everyone went crazy. And it was the first time that I was like, oh God, this could be something. Like, this could be something here. Like, because I wasn't good at any subjects at school. I was at an extremely overachieving school as well, you know, NSB in Northampton. It's one of the best schools in the country, and it's kind of like prides itself on being like, you know, you if you don't get into here, you'll fail. You know, that's kind of what kids are taught when they're sort of 13. And you know, my parents had to do like a massive 300-page essay on why I should be there, and I had to do IT tests and general knowledge tests and music tests, and I had to be in a basketball team or a football team or a rugby team or some, you know. 8 of the England rugby players went to that school, and you know, probably about 200 kids each year, probably. I think it was around 200 in my year went to Oxford or Cambridge afterwards.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so if you weren't intelligent there, you were definitely seen as you were just a nobody, basically.
Right.
You were just looked past. And because I couldn't read music either, I wasn't allowed to even do the music course.
Huh. Even though you're probably
even though
the best one there.
I couldn't read it. So then I did this talent competition. Everyone went mental, and then when everyone went off to university, I thought, well, school was the worst years of my life. So I think university sounds like more of that. So
right.
So I'll just try and make it. And I went to Manchester Uni for one day just to humor my mum, because she was going crazy of the idea of me not going to university. Especially, I was one of the only people in NSB that didn't go to university at all. And people were mortified by it. They were like, you know, I mean, it was almost like I'd told them I was dying. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
It was, oh my God, I'm so sorry. What happened? It was like, no, I'm going to try and be a rock star. And then they just laugh at me.
I saw this great meme that said, it was like a kid and his dad, and it said, hey dad, I'm going to be a musician when I grow up. And then the dad's response was, you can't be both. I was dying. Oh, I think I remember you saying, didn't you win some talent competition, or you'd get to a certain point and you got to like take you got to go on vacation or something?
Yeah, man. Yeah. So basically this spurred off from a lot of childhood experiences. When I was a kid, me and my dad would go to these like weird campsites in, like, we went to this place called Searles in Hunstanton, and it's like the seaside town about 2 hours drive away from here. Always rained, you know. I think it just rained all year round. Loads of like rock, you know, that rock. Do you get rock in America in seaside towns? That sort of candy, that's like hard candy.
Oh rock. Yeah.
Yeah, and amusement parks and things. And then we'd go, and there'd always be a talent competition there. And so so I would do it, but I never sang, because at that age I wasn't singing, I was just playing piano. So
Oh, okay.
my dad was like, why don't you just get on stage and do the party trick? Because that was literally what it was. It's just a party trick. And I wouldn't even know what I was playing. I was just making it up as I went along. Just
Oh, you didn't
bounce.
have like a go-to thing you do. You just go up there and
Not
mess
really.
around.
I mean, I had bits and bobs that I was like, oh, I could play this now. And then I could play it. But I'm only like 13, 14 years old. So I was just
Mhm.
doodling around on a piano. That was my act, really. And then we ended up winning it, which was, I mean, at the time, I felt like happy because everyone was really happy for me around me.
Right. No, that's awesome, right? I mean, I think you said you won it like 3 or 4 years in a row, right? You
Yeah,
get to
exactly.
go back for free and stay in the nice cabin or something like that.
But it was a con though, because they'd always put the finals of all of it on the seasons that no one was going to go on holiday. So like the finals would be on like November, December kind of vibe, and you just like, hang on a minute, you've just got us all here spending money. Like, this was
But
going to
they just comped your room.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. And they've got everything. You've got like the darts finals is that week, and like the Skittles finals and the swimming finals. They've done competitions for everything. You name
Oh, okay.
just trying to get as many people in there as possible.
Oh, that's funny. Well, so okay, so after you finish school and you're going to pursue the music thing, what do you do? Do you have any recorded stuff, or like how do you kind of start? Do you just start playing around Northampton, or do you move to London at this point?
Yeah, so I played around Northampton. So I did like 7 or 8 gigs in Northampton, everywhere I could really. And then a manager spotted me. Well, actually, the manager's girlfriend at the time, she actually messaged me on Facebook and said, hey, my boyfriend wants to be a music manager. He's really interested in like talking to you. I'm about 19 at this point.
Mhm.
So I was like, okay, cool. We'll see where that goes. He came and watched me play live and then asked if he could sign me. He wasn't really a manager, to be honest. I mean, looking back at it now, he was just a guy who was a fan and became a mate and just sort of had an email address that wasn't his.
Yours.
Yeah, it wasn't mine, basically.
It didn't just say Billy Lockett. Hey, I'm representing Billy Lockett.
He was just kind of like pretending. He was just pretending. But to be honest, that's all I needed at the time was someone to pretend, because
Yeah.
I was kind of pretending to be an artist in a way. I mean, we all massive imposter syndrome at that point. And so we got quite lucky actually, because he signed me. We recorded one song, released it, and it just went. It was just like on Record of the Week on Radio 1.
Wow.
It was everywhere really, and then that basically sold it basically gave me a booking agent, which then gave me a UK tour, which sold out extremely quickly, and I think everyone was very excited. It was kind of like almost too good to be true. It's like
Yeah.
so
Wow.
easy. um
What
uh,
song was that? Was that one that because I remember you said you kind of took down some things right off your Spotify.
yeah, so that was called Balance.
Okay.
And I mean I still hate it to this day, to be honest, but I might rework it somehow. But it was the first song that really got me anything, and from then on, from that point, we were touring, we were flying. The Facebook was going up. I think we only had Facebook back then.
Mhm.
And this is like 11, 12 years ago now. So Facebook was going crazy. And from that, it was 2 more EPs. We were just recording EPs, putting them out. Nothing was really charting as such, but it was making money, and it was giving us, and then Katie Tunstall brought me on tour with her, and then my fan base really went. It was kind of like it was a bit of an explosion really, and then Lana Del Rey came from that, and
Yeah.
and we were just flying. Yeah, it was great.
Oh my gosh. And then you kind of at one point, right? Was it after that where you just took a break from everything for a little while?
So my dad died basically. I
Yeah.
did the Katie Tunstall tour, then we supported Lana Del Rey, and then we supported Birdie on a European tour, and
Wow.
We'd already put like 3 EPs out at that point.
Was Burn It Down out at this point or no?
Oh, so Burn It Down hadn't even started yet.
Okay.
So then basically I found out my dad was dying, and then came home and luckily got to actually hang out with it. Luckily, one of the shows when I was back was in Milton Keynes, which is literally up the road from Northampton. So I got to have one last day with my dad before the show.
Oh, that's incredible.
Oh, it was amazing because he was out of hospital because he'd chosen to, because they give you this option when you're about to die. They say, do you want to die at home or do you want to die in the hospital? And
Yeah. You kind of do like a hospice thing. I think they do something similar here where
yeah,
they'll just kind of send a nurse to your house and let you
that's
kind of
exactly what
be
happened.
be at your home.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. And so we brought him home, and the nurse left us to it for the day. She was still in the house, but she just went downstairs, and my dad was bedridden. He still got his brain though, and he was still
Mhm.
talking, he's still very much him, but he just couldn't move his body anymore. Because he had cancer pretty much everywhere. But
Oh
by the
my
end,
gosh.
it was just everywhere. But he wasn't the healthiest man on the planet. And we had a great day where I just played piano, I played guitar and piano to him, and we were kind of songwriting all day. And he was like, "Oh,
Wow.
that's nice. Oh yeah, change that word. Oh, maybe not that word. And I like that chord." And we were just getting drunk and smoking and just partying together, basically. But that's what we did. That was how we bonded. So
Uh-huh.
it was a nice, weirdly, even though it was probably very toxic from an outsider looking in, but for us, it was quite a beautiful moment. And then I had to go and do the show. So then I said to him, right, I've got to go. The bus was outside, so I had to go. And as I was leaving, he sat up and shook my hand and didn't say anything, just sat up and shook my hand. Um, and then it felt weird, like it felt great, obviously, but it was also like, whoa, like what's about to happen? And then soon, and then I literally left the house, and as soon as as soon as I sat down in the car, the nurse called me and said he's died. So
Oh my
literally
gosh.
within about 1 minute of walking to the car. So it was like he was just sort of waiting, really. It's weird.
Yeah. I've like I remember my grandmother died. It was like she waited for like one of my mom's siblings lived like, they had to fly in and everything. And like the plane got delayed and it was like she waited until he got there. It was just, I
Oh,
think, yeah, they kind of know at one point and it's like, okay, I'm good now. Like that must have been, oh my gosh, to hear that phone call when you get into the bus, that must have been one of the most difficult shows to play.
yeah, it was, and I don't know how everyone knew, but they did, because the crowds for the rest of that. I mean, I only did like 3 or 4 more shows on that tour, but the crowds were crying. Everyone was crying basically, and it was weird because my dad was quite famous and well known. He was an artist, as in like a painter, like a fine artist, incredible,
Oh,
like one of the best in the world, really. If you Google image him, it's John Luce Lockett, and his artwork is phenomenal. Probably some of the best. I mean, technically, fine art wise, he's up there with some of the best. I mean, critically acclaimed. Um, and so it was weird. Everyone kind of knew him as well. So when he died, it was kind of like everyone felt it. Everyone around me felt it, and people didn't really know him, and they were, some people seemed more, seemed more upset than I was. And I know that sounds crazy, but when you just like, and they'd never even met him before, they just were fans of his art. So that was quite weird.
oh wow. I'm looking at his, oh my gosh, he was such a talented painter. That's
Yeah,
wow.
yeah, crazy. Like it's insane, and it never really took off for him. He never made millions. It never sold that well. He was always struggling. We were always struggling from beginning
Uh-huh.
to end.
I hope you'd have like a couple of his paintings still, right? Some of his
Got
original stuff.
hundred. Got his
Yeah,
life's
okay.
like Yeah, I've got like almost 1,000 paintings in.
Oh, that's good. I was just making, yeah, I just wanted to see if you were able to keep any of it.
Oh god, yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. I don't know what to do with it. I've just got it hidden away, but one day, one day I'll get time to actually have an exhibition or but I don't want to. It's hard with art. You don't want to, it's because it's my dad as well. I don't want to seem like I'm cashing in on him.
Right.
I know that sounds, I know people probably wouldn't think that, but some people might, and that just makes me think, okay, I've got to be careful of how I promote him.
Right. Yeah, and I could see how that could get tricky because it's not like you're like, yeah, I'm gonna sell this so I can make a bunch of money. It's like, no, I just
Yeah, I want it
I want to give it to his fans. I mean,
totally.
yeah. It's like if you had a record, you know what I mean? You'd want people to
Oh
have
god,
it. Yeah, you know what I mean?
god, yeah. And I
Yeah.
think
So
he would want that as well. So I am trying to work on that. But yeah, after
but
the
I
out.
can't imagine how hard that must have been. But
Yeah.
so that's when I struggle with addiction, and I've been, in treatment a bunch of times, and I've been sober now for a year and a couple months. So I know that you've also had kind of your own journey with that, and
For me, it
you
wasn't alcohol though. For me, it was cocaine was my addiction.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
I kind of have all of them.
they all come in hand in hand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they all did, man. But yeah, okay, because
But to be
I know
honest,
you have.
I don't drink really. I mean, so I do. I drink on special occasions, very occasionally, but I don't drink for health reasons.
Oh,
For me,
okay.
it's like I'm trying to be healthy, so I try to just not. Like last year, I went 8 months not drinking,
Wow,
and I don't think I have a particularly bad problem with alcohol.
Mhm.
It's just the Coke.
The
Absolutely.
booger sugar.
Luckily, that's been gone for a long time now. You
That's
know.
good. Yeah. Because I remember just based off of the bio I read of yours, because that kind of at that point when you're after your father passed,
Yeah,
that's
so that's when I
eh,
stopped singing. Yeah,
yeah, you
and I
stopped writing or not. I don't know if you stopped writing,
yeah,
but you stopped kind of playing music, right?
I just quit everything and took all of my music down. I just ended up just getting wasted constantly,
Mhm.
and a lot of drugs, and just in one of those sort of wasted moments decided to delete my whole catalog off the internet, and I'm talking everywhere: YouTube, music videos, all of Spotify, millions of streams. Yeah, just
Oh
delete.
wow.
Yeah, I just thought I hate what I'm doing. I think it was when my dad died, it just made me realize like the life is short and you should never do things that you're not happy with. And I wasn't happy with that music, and I didn't want people to know me for it. So I thought I'm starting again. I mean, in hindsight, would have been nice to have kept him on now, but that's life, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, but that's not when you put out Reset. Was that another moment?
Yeah, so Burn It Down was
Okay,
that.
that's when Burn It Down was
Yeah,
born.
so Burn It Down, and essentially that was the first song, and it was I'll burn it down and build it up better is the chorus, and so it was all about me just destroying my history of music and just starting again.
Okay. And didn't that, but when you release that song, I mean, to pull everything down and kind of be out of this spotlight, so to speak, because at that point, I mean, you're playing with Lana Del Rey and you're selling out all these shows and you've got all these streams and all this attention on you. And then to just be like, I'm done. And
Yeah,
then to kind of come back and still have, Burn It Down, it has nearly 3 million streams. And so were you concerned with once you kind of came back again after
yeah.
being away for a bit, is anyone gonna, care anymore
Oh my
or
god, terrified, terrified. I mean, but then again, I've realized that being an artist, that feeling will never leave you. So you may as well just do what you're going to do, because you're going to feel terrified all the time anyway. There's always
okay.
going to be self-doubt. There's always going to be nerves, with whatever you're doing. And for me, it wasn't about the streams or the tours or any of it. It was just about like I need to do things that I like, and I need to create things that I'm okay with hearing for the rest of my life,
Mhm.
and I wasn't okay with hearing those songs for the rest of my life. And so that's why I took it down. And then Burn It Down was the first time that I wrote something and I felt like, okay, this is something like I love, and it's me, you know. It was
Uh-huh.
it was the beginning of my ballad world, really. And I got a new manager, and I got a new record deal, and I got new everything, you know, a new booking agent and the works, really.
But when you came out with it, like, obviously people cared. Was it a situation where you were able to get back on to, Radio 1 or Radio 2, or,
No,
at that
no,
point,
no.
it was like you had to really build everything back up again. Like, you
And
were kind of out of the light for long enough where it's like, "Okay,
yeah,
show us what you can do again."
it's only now that that light has come back.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So it's like with Burn It Down, don't get me wrong, it was great and it did really well. And we got some big tours. We put it out and we toured with Lewis Capaldi,
Oh, wow.
and ELO, and we signed to Warner Records. So it was a big deal for me. But we weren't really getting much radio play. The press weren't talking about us. We weren't in the official UK chart. You know, it was like it was all close. It was so close.
Mhm.
But it wasn't what we've got. I mean, now it's like, you know, we're on every radio station. I've just my second single now now I've got two singles on pretty much every radio station in the country at the same time. And I mean that kind of, and I'm not saying that as a boast. I'm saying it as like that has never happened. It's
Right.
never come close to that kind of, you know, exposure. So this is new territory now.
That's so amazing, though. I mean, I've seen a couple of the Instagram videos that you posted of, hearing. It's cool for me to watch you react to hearing your song on the radio, because I was on the radio for like 17 years, and I felt like I got into radio as it was like kind of at its peak, and then I just watched it do one of these, and
Mhm.
then but to hear people like,
Yeah,
hearing their song on the radio for the first, like, to that, like, that was such a big thing for me to hear a song or hear a presenter. Not that I had a song on the radio, but like just to see your reaction. Like, it's so cool to be able to watch and be like, wow, this person's playing your song on the radio, and it means that much to you.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it's like radio. Like in England, it's different with radio because in England, you've really got Radio 1 and Radio 2, uh,
Right.
and then obviously you've got other stations you have, but really you know, everyone in the car, if everyone in the car driving, you know, 9 times out of 10, it's Radio 1 or 2 a lot of the time,
Mhm.
unless they're just listening on Spotify or something. Um, and for me personally, it is Radio 2 is the biggest station in Europe, and
Right,
it's
because that's like the pot, like the hit, like, more of our top 40 hits, right? Radio One's kind of more of the up and coming, like almost like
yeah,
I
Radio
see.
1.
I was on alternative radio, so it was like we were playing bands, obviously the traditional alternative band like the Green Days and Red Hot Chili Peppers and stuff. But we'd also be the station that would be playing like Portugal the Man or Glass Animals, and then it would transfer over to the more of the top 40 station, right? And I feel like that's radio too.
It's interesting how Glass Animals is like it was alternative. Now it's like number one everywhere. It's like the most
Right.
mainstream band. I'm a massive fan of Glass Animals. They're my favorite band. And
Oh,
like,
really? I remember playing Gooey on the radio when
mm,
no one knew who they were.
wow,
And I had a music director, a guy that was kind of a consultant, was like, dude, this band's gonna be huge. And I heard Gooey. I was like, this is like a really rad song. Don't get me wrong. I think this band's amazing, but I just didn't see how, when I heard that then, to know what they're doing now with Heat Waves
oh God,
what it was just so polar opposite.
what an amazing song though. What an amazing
Oh,
song
it's
that.
incredible.
I was like, I remember where I was when I first heard it. You know, it's that good. One of those songs that I remember what I was wearing. I remember who I was with. You know, it's like
But I
special moment. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's kind of what Radio 2 is, correct? I mean, correct me if I'm
Yeah,
wrong.
so, well, Radio 2, I guess, is sort of the mainstream one. It's just that it's like the mainstream, I guess. It's sort of it plays the artists everyone knows,
Right, the
and that's
Miley Cyruses and the
yeah, yeah, and
okay.
that's why it feels like such an honor to be in this list. And like, you know, even regional radio, now all the BBC stations are behind me as well. I feel like I've just got like the BBC is so behind me here, and that's
That's
just a really
amazing.
it's a good friend to have when you're
Oh, yeah.
very lucky, but this was not an easy thing. It's been 10 years working towards this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
So,
been
well, with Reset, was that a moment where you built everything up and then I
yeah.
can't remember, you took another pause?
So yeah, so I toured with Lewis Capaldi and ELO, and then and I was signed to Warner, and we were doing pretty good things. We were selling a lot of tickets. We just sold out Shepherd's Bush Empire, which is a big venue in the UK. It's quite like it's a big moment for a lot of people's careers. It's normally the moment where it sort of all goes crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I remember coming off stage and going backstage and talking to my manager, and it was like, the label aren't releasing the album and it looks like you're going to get dropped. And I was just like,
What? So you had an album recorded completely at that point too?
Pretty much. I mean, we'd recorded for the last 3 or 4 years. We'd been writing and recording music. You know, we've got so much music. I mean, we were ready to do the album. I was ready years before that, but they just kept holding me off, and they kept holding it off and kept saying, well, we're just waiting for the right time, waiting for the right time. And then it was all of a sudden, you're gone. So that was crazy. And then from that, I didn't take everything off this time. I learned my lesson.
Okay.
but I ended up sort of losing it a little bit, falling off the wagon and partying pretty hard. Coming back to Northampton, and just just partied so hard that my management ended up dropping me. You know, she didn't say that it was because of that, but it was, you know what I mean? Like, she brought me in for a meeting, and that was a shame, because you know, Helena was my first proper manager that really got me my first proper record deal. And you know, I did some big tours with her. We really had some success together.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a shame, but she was like, you know, I can't do this. I think it was just affecting her mental health, dealing with a cokehead, you know, that's been dropped and not, you know, I and then sort of lost my girlfriend and lost everything really, and just started again. And then luckily my girlfriend took me back, and then I got sober, and I've been writing this album for pretty much, actually recording and writing the album in the cellar from then on, really. And
oh, wow. So when you put out Reset, I mean, you have
Reset.
Sam sober on that. Was that when did you put that out after kind of everything? You kind of got more back into
just after I got dropped from Warner. Literally, I think it was like a week after.
So this is before everything kind of like started to get
so that was
too
actually
much.
So Reset was still with Helena, so Helena was still managing me.
Okay.
And we put out Reset after the label dropped me, and then James Corden picked it up. We did the James Corden show.
Oh, that's with Hard Act to Follow, correct?
Yeah, exactly, with Hard Act to Follow and the Reset side of things. And that was kind of like the idea of, right, I'm resetting everything. Labels dropped me, I'll start it all again.
Yeah, because they dropped you. I think I remember you telling me you had all those songs, right, with Hard Act to Follow and everything, and then you were able to get the publishing and everything back on that song, weren't you?
Yeah, they gave me it back. They gave me it back.
And then it blew up.
Yeah, and then like a week later, it blew up. I literally bought a house out of it.
I love that story.
Yeah, but the problem with it was it got a little burst of success, and then it sort of spurred me on to kind of, there was nothing after it. After the James Corden show, it kind of fizzled out because we hadn't got a deal in place. We had no label to push anything really. So it was a nice big ending, but it kind of, it was an ending as such.
Sure, but to at least you had that, right? You're like,
yeah, totally.
You draw me, you lost 22 million streams on this song, all this exposure, you know, like, for you to be able to take all of that and own it, I mean, that's unheard of.
Yeah, it was good. And then and that was when we sort of decided to part ways, me and Helena, and that's when I came back. And then I did and then I met my new management, which I'm still with now, whole management. And that was where we started to kind of, they helped me with the whole getting off the drugs, and at that time was when I sort of did a big stunt of not drinking as well. And then from then on, we did the classical album and
Yeah, the Together at Home.
Get Together at Home, and then Reflections EP after that, and now the album. So, and they've got
So
a deal in America as well. Yeah, they're great.
wow. So with the album, you said you were actually able to go back to the same basement cellar that you would jam in with your dad and his friends, and you recorded the album in there?
Yeah, so this was the thing about coming back to Northampton. That obviously I was a bit of a mess, and I partied a lot, and I definitely wasn't like in the best condition. I was at home and I was in the cellar, and it meant that I was sort of back in the place that I felt comfortable to make music.
Mhm.
So by the time I actually met my new management, it was perfect timing really, because I'd been in there long enough to get the party side out of me. And now it was like, okay, I can focus on making the record there. And through the whole process of the album, I was sober, and it was amazing. It was
Oh, wow.
yeah, it was a real therapy. I just, because I was just working on the album with Barney, and Barney is not like my producer. Barney, he's not like a party animal, you know. He's never, you know, smoked in his life ever. You know, he's never done anything ever. Like, you know, drinks a bit, but very together guy, very stable. And so it was nice because I was spending so much time with this guy that just had his head screwed on and was so together, and also so similar to me. It was kind of like looking at him was like he I was inspired. I was like, that's the kind of guy I want to be like.
Mhm.
So it was almost a bit of a role model, and I've never really told him this. I mean, he never I don't know why I haven't, but yeah, he was a big help without even knowing it or trying, just by being like, yeah, music's enough of a drug for me. That's what his whole life and ethos was. And I was like, oh yeah, same. Like it's,
Yeah, right. Well, they say like in AA and stuff, you find somebody that has what you want, right? I mean, that's what it kind of feel like you did with this producer, and you were able to create such an incredible album, and then to get the validation from BBC and all your fans, and to be able to go on Instagram Live and say, share the link, let's do this, and then to chart with this album. I mean, what a huge accomplishment.
man, it's the dream. It's like one of those, because the thing is, a lot of artists, I think probably 99% of artists would probably, I mean, maybe I'm generalizing here. I normally do that kind of thing, but
It's all good.
but most people, if you spend your life savings on recording an album with the hope that a label's going to sign you, it's a risk. You know what I mean? Most
Oh yeah.
people like to get the deal first, and then like it's that classic thing of never spend your own money, you know. When
Right.
it comes to that. But I just couldn't wait any longer, and I knew I wasn't going to get a record deal unless I could show a label what I sounded like fully, as an album form, as a, this is what I am in this whole thing. You can't get it from one song, you know. You can't get it from an EP. You've got to listen to 12 songs by me before you actually get it. And I knew
Mhm.
that. I knew I was a grower. And so I was just like, right, we're going to make this album. We had not, like, Barney wasn't a big name. Do you know what I mean? I mean, he's becoming a big name now, which is brilliant. I'm happy for him. But at the time, neither of us, you know, had much going on. I was sort of a reject, had just been dropped. So I was a bit of a mess. You know, I tried a couple of times and it hadn't really worked out. I got new management who was sort of, they were taking a risk on me at the time. You know, everyone was taking a risk to be involved in this. And it was, and I was taking a huge risk because it was all my money gone.
Mhm.
But so you know, to see it succeeding is like just so important, and just I'm just relieved, you know.
It's incredible, man. It's so cool to hear the story of the album, and to see it all kind of come together for you, especially in the way that, you know, it's being promoted, or like people are embracing it and so passionate about it, and like you're getting the rewards of the radio stations and the fans, and people buying the album. I think it's so awesome, man.
Thanks, man. Thank you. It feels it feels nice to be able to like reward all the people that took a risk on me, and be
Mhm.
like, it's nice to feel like, you know, not to feel like I've let everyone down again. Do you know what I mean? Because that's kind of like what you feel when you're an addict and when you're failing and when all these things, you just feel like, oh, I just keep letting everyone down. Like, as in, oh, I've started doing drugs again. I've let them down in that way.
Right.
Or, oh, that song didn't do that well. I've let them down. Or my manager can't work with me. I've let her down, and then you just kind of like, and it sucks. And so it's just nice to feel proud of myself and everyone to feel like, yeah, we've made the right decision taking a punt on this guy. Same with the label, same with everyone. That my whole team, I feel like we're just happy. It's nice. Just happy.
No, I
to be happy in this industry sometimes.
no, yeah, for sure. And I totally can relate on the letting everybody down thing. It's like at least for me, coming from the addict perspective, or you say, okay, I'm not going to drink anymore, I'm not going to use drugs anymore, and then you do, and it's like, but you really meant it, right? You meant it then,
Really,
but like you feel like you let everybody down, and like you kind of carry even more of a weight on your shoulders when it comes to, you have managers and everybody else that are there helping support you, and you're like just hoping, come on, I hope this works out. And then obviously it's an incredible album. I love that you did an album, because not a lot of people are doing that anymore. It's like you do one song and hope that everyone, the excuse is, I just gotta give that song time to breathe. And it's like, well, yeah, but there's something to be said about putting an album on and listening to it front to back that I enjoy.
It's like a movie, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
there's something special about that, and having a whole body of work. Like, it's supposed to be like entertainment, but it's also supposed to be a journey.
Mhm.
And how can you do that with one thing? One
Right.
flavor. Single is really one flavor, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
100%. Yeah.
this album's like a meal. You know?
Yeah, a meal. Exactly. That's a beautiful way to put it. Well, I ordered the album, the deluxe vinyl, because I think that peach color is pretty sick, and I think you signed it for me if I got one of the ones that are still available, I hope.
I mean, no one's got one yet. There's been a delay on the manufacturing.
Oh, okay. Well, then then it sounds like I'll be good to go.
Yeah, we've got 4 weeks now. I haven't even seen one yet. So
Okay.
hard promoting it when I don't actually
I
own
have the physical copy. Well, I've seen the photo of it, and it looks beautiful.
Oh, yeah, it looks great. It's gonna be great. I can't wait. I can't wait to get it.
Oh, that's funny. Well, thank you so much, Billy, for doing this, man. I'm so excited that I had a chance to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you for having me. This has been almost a therapy in a way, isn't it? I'm sorry I talked about myself so much, but I guess that's the point really with this, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It's all about you. No one cares about me. It's all about you.
I always find that weird with podcasts. So I find that weird with interviews, because it's like I've done a lot recently, and then I just feel like, God, I just keep talking loads and talking about myself all the time. So I end up asking them questions, and they almost get a bit mad at me sometimes, because I'm trying to.
You're like, this is one-sided, but in my opinion, the way I see it is like, people are coming here because they want to hear your story. They're like, I'm just the guy kind of keeping us on the road a little bit.
Do you still radio DJ, or have you fully on podcast world?
I've done fully podcast world since the end of 2020.
Wow.
Yeah. I've thought about dabbling in it, but it's like, I've just watched it kind of. I mean, nowadays there's no money there. I mean, it's a lot of work for little to no reward, if that makes any sense. And that sounds bad, but it's like, I loved being on the radio. I enjoyed it. But at a point when, you're in one of the biggest markets in the country and no one's calling the phone, it's like, it's obvious that the internet is totally taking over.
Gosh. And do you think that radio will carry on going, or do you think there'll be a point when everyone's just like, should we call it a day? In America, at least.
I don't know. It's hard to say, because I always thought, yeah, it would stick around, in the sense that it's because it's localized content, right? It's like, okay, you need to hear what the traffic's like, but it's like, do you? I mean, you have an app, like you have Waze, it's going to tell you what's going on, or like, I felt like it was just because it was so localized, local news, local entertainment and everything, but no one's, I don't know. In my opinion, I'm not going to know that Billy Lockett's coming to Nashville because I heard it on the radio. I'm gonna know because you posted it on Instagram, and this is my tour, right?
Yeah. So in America, if an artist gets on the radio, does it sort of help their careers much?
I mean, it used to. I
Yeah.
mean, it used to. I couldn't tell you. I mean, I would imagine it has to a certain degree, because I'm sure people are still they still are listening, right? It's free entertainment. Um, but I don't know anymore. But I would think it has to definitely. It's not hurting anyone's career by any means.
Because it's the listeners, because the listenership, I guess it goes down, but there's so many stations in America and there's so many people that it still must be hundreds of thousands of listeners, on these stations, surely.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I was in San Francisco doing radio there, and they're like, I think 6 million population for the signal. And then I was in San Diego, which is 3 million. And I just recently looked at their Nielsen ratings just to see. And it's like roughly around a couple 100,000 people that could be listening at any time. But it's like, but what does that mean? Because it's all based off of these meters that you would hold. So if you were a meter holder, you'd have this pager that you have to walk around with. And they basically say it as like, okay, if you're playing a sold out Wembley Stadium, and they ask 6 people what their favorite soda is, and they go Pepsi. Okay, this whole stadium loves Pepsi. But you're like, no. I mean, maybe you just happen to land on 3 or 4 people that do, right?
Of course. Okay, I see.
So that's how like the rating systems work. It's really bizarre. So you could get somebody that has a meter that loves listening to your show, and they're one of like, a few people that have it. So if they're listening to your show every night, it's going to look like, damn, like this guy's killing it. He's number one in the country, or number one in the market, because one person is making that decision for everybody.
Wow. So interesting.
But I mean, it's not hurting anyone, I'm sure. You know what I mean? When it comes to like, if it's on the radio, it's got to be.
Oh yeah, I guess every form of exposure is good, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, and there's got to be still so many people listening to it just because it's so simple. It's like get in the car, punch a few, but instead of like having to set up your Spotify and this and the other thing. But I feel like nowadays I mean,
you don't really have one station, do you, that covers the whole of America?
No, we don't have one at all that does that.
Not one station does that.
Nope. I mean, you can get serious, like satellite radio is more of a generic, like that's everyone in the country that is paying monthly on something.
Yeah.
But we don't have it like you guys do by any means. Or like Australia or something, like with Triple J, or we don't have anything like that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I guess we're just such a smaller country, aren't we? We're basically the size of a state compared to you guys. Do you think that has anything to do with it?
I think so. I mean, because each state operates almost like a country in itself, where it's different laws and different regulations and everything else. But you have a federal government overseeing everybody, but like a state has its own, rules and regulations in itself.
Oh yeah, that's so interesting. I totally didn't realize that every state has specific laws.
Yeah. So you can be in California and be able to buy pot, and then I'm in Tennessee and you can't, right? And like you can get arrested and go to jail for it. Where it's like gun laws are different everywhere. It's just like it's totally different no matter where you're at.
That's really interesting. With the whole gun law, I know we've got onto this now, but are there any states in America? This is a genuine question. Are there any states in America where guns are illegal?
Illegal? No, because it's protected by the Second Amendment.
Okay, right. So that's above
the federal. Those are above the state.
Wow.
Okay. I think so. There's certain laws that they cannot change within the state unless they broke off into their own country. Like but the state has that right, but it's never been done, right?
Okay.
Like California could say, we're leaving the United States and we're going to be our own independent country, and we can make our own laws and rules and this and the other thing. but then you're not getting any sort of
Support.
federal funding or you're on your own at that point. But so no one's ever done it.
Yeah, why would you ever leave something that big? I mean, like,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, God, what were we thinking?
Right. Whoops.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, each state but states are allowed to operate pretty. I mean, the federal, the way it works is it's like state has their own thing, which is really powerful in certain senses, where it could even be more like the laws could outweigh what the federal government does in a certain sense. A kind of it's. I mean, it's a little more complex than that, but like they can't come in and say no, you can't have a gun. I mean, you can say you can't have a gun in this area. The laws to get a gun are this, or like they can create all these regulations on it, but they can't straight up ban it.
Interesting.
Yeah, so they can make it very difficult for you to get one, and they can make every raw law and rule in the books to say you shouldn't own. You know what I mean? Like, but they can't straight up ban it.
Yeah, they can say it's frowned upon.
Right, they can frown upon it. They can make it you have to jump through 1,000 hoops and do a million things to get one, and you can't have them in certain places, or you can't carry them there and there and there. But they can't tell you no. They can't say no, you cannot own one at all.
It's amazing, isn't it? I just find that so crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. But Billy, dude, thank you again so much for doing this, man. I have one more question for you. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Don't do it. Don't do this. Seriously, stop. Just do anything else.
Yeah.
Save yourself. You still got time. You still got time. So advice. I think my best advice would be try to enjoy all of it. Try and enjoy every side of it. The making the music bit's the easy bit to enjoy, but I mean, try and enjoy the finding the manager, finding the label, try and enjoy the content creation, try and enjoy the interviews, try and enjoy the shows, everything. Everything has to be enjoyed for this job to really work properly. I mean, mental health wise and actually financially. So just try and enjoy it. The second you're not enjoying it, it's the second it will start to crumble.